Chapter 5. The Dark Cloaked Figures Appear. Zara's Perspective. After finishing up in the city, we continued on our merry way. After a few days of travel, we ran into a sudden and nasty rainstorm. We were miles away from any civilization or shelter, so we put on hooded cloaks to protect ourselves from the rain. We were just walking along when suddenly a voice behind us said, "Are you sure it's them?" We turned around to see who was speaking. Behind us were two people in hooded dark cloaks that hid their faces and covered most of their bodies. The taller figure held a menacing warhammer. It looked kind of like a big, long stick with a huge lump of metal on the end. The shorter figure held an elegantly made mace. It was like a short pole made of metal with a stylized knob on the end. I had no idea who they were, but I immediately knew they were bad news. Since when are people in dark cloaks ever good news? "Yes," the tall figure said. "The disturbance I felt has drawn me to them. So, you're the ones who seek the source. Well, you won't have it!" With their final words, the figure struck the ground hard with their hammer, creating a crack in the earth that shot forward towards Zolin. He jumped out of the way to avoid it. The shorter figure used magic to turn the raindrops around them into solid bits of ice, and they hurled the ice forward at me. I created a magical barrier in front of me that stopped the ice shards. Ketty ran forward and swung her battle axe at the shorter figure, but they dodged the blow. In retaliation, the tall figure hit the ground again with their hammer, this time making it shake violently. Ketty was thrown off balance by the shaking and fell to the ground. The short figure raised their mace and prepared to bring it down on Ketty. Before they could swing down, Zolin ran up and swung his spear at the figure. The blow cut the sleeve on the figure's cloak, but didn't seem to do any other damage. The figure threw their right hand, the hand that wasn't holding the mace, forward and used magical force to throw Zolin back without even touching him. The tall figure ran up to me and swung their huge hammer. I stepped back frantically, trying to avoid the blows, but I lost my balance and fell to the ground. Suddenly, I felt a great gust of wind hit my face. It was so strong that it knocked the hood of my cloak back. I looked up at the tall figure, but they were just standing there, motionless. Not wanting to give them an opportunity to strike again, I used magical force to push them away from me. Then, they made some kind of hand motion to the other figure, and the two of them just ran away. They disappeared just as mysteriously as they had appeared. That night when we set up camp, we all had a talk to see if we could make some sense of what had happened. Who were those people? Why did they want to fight us? And what was this source thing they mentioned? None of us had any idea what the answer to any of these questions might be, but we knew we didn't want to encounter those people ever again. It was 3 against 2, and they still kicked our butts. We agreed that if we ever saw them again, we'd try talking to them first to see if we could get an idea of what they wanted, and so we could avoid fighting them again if at all possible. A few days later, we were camping near a lake. It had been ages since I last bathed, and I was sure I must have stunk something terrible, so I went to bathe in the lake. As I lay back in the water, relaxed, I could hear the distinct sound of footsteps in the grass. I ducked down into the water so only my head could be seen above it and shouted, "Hey! I know you're there, pervert! If you think you've come for a peep show, think again!" I threw my hand up and shot off a few fireballs to show I was serious. Then, someone rose from behind a bush. It was another one of those dark-cloaked figures. Suddenly, my heart sank, and I wasn't so confident anymore. "You again? What do you even want?" I said, trying to avoid a fight. "What we want," the figure replied, "is to bring peace to everything." Hopelessly confused, I asked, "And how am I standing in the way of peace?" "Not you," the figure said, "but those close to you." What the hell was that supposed to mean? Was there something Zolin and Ketty weren't telling me? Or maybe Artis? He was acting kind of mysterious before he left, even for Artis. What the hell did he do to anger these people? Does this have anything to do with that source thing? I asked. Yes, it has everything to do with the source, the figure replied. I waited several moments, but they said no more. Finally, I decided I had enough of this. If what you want is to hurt my friends, I said, then you've come to the right place. I'll stop you before you have a chance to get to them. I knew I probably couldn't win this fight. Even when it was 3 against 2, these people kicked our butts. I thought about trying to get help, but I knew I couldn't get back to Ketty and Zolin even if I wanted to. Even if I tried to run back to camp, the figure would be all over me before I could have a chance to get very far. I had to be brave. I had to be strong. There was just one of them this time, so maybe I had a chance, I hoped. I started by using magic to form the water around me into a great wave that swept over the figure. They braced themselves and seemed to barely even budge as the water smashed into them. Still, I used this distraction to quickly run to my clothes and put them back on. I knew this person wasn't here to see me naked, but I still wasn't interested in prancing my bare butt in front of them. The figure ran toward me. I could see a blade poking ominously out from underneath their right sleeve. They swung their right arm at me, trying to cut me with the blade. I threw my hand forward and shot off a blast of magical energy, but they ducked and it missed them completely. It was unreal how fast their reflexes were. Down near the ground, the figure started trying to swing at my legs. I stomped my foot on the ground, creating a crack in the earth. They avoided it by rolling forward and to my left side. They had gotten behind me. I tried to turn around, but I could feel the figure's hand grabbing me, stopping my movement. Then, I felt something sharp and cold dig into my back. My vision faded and my strength left me. I became so weak that I couldn't even stay standing anymore. I fell to the ground. Even though my eyes were open, my vision got blurrier and blurrier. This was it. This was my chance to prove my strength and overcome the bad guy, and I blew it. Maybe I am just a weakling after all. No. Even from the start, I had a feeling there was no way I could win this fight. Even when I fought together with Zolin and Ketty, none of us were strong enough to defeat these people. It's not my fault. It would have been my fault if I ran away like a coward, and that's exactly what the old me would have done. The old me would have just gone crying to Ketty and Zolin for help. Instead, I stood my ground and fought bravely even though I knew I couldn't win. I am strong.